Alright guys, today we're going to do lesson 7-12 and we're going to be solving fraction problems but with sets or collections of objects. So instead of just looking at something that's one whole object and dividing that object, we're going to be looking at like sets of objects, like collections of objects, and then dividing those objects into fractions. Okay? Alright, so let's see here. I'm trying to think if I want you to take out. Yeah, go ahead and have out a blank sheet of paper and a pencil or your dry erase board so that we can do a few problems together before we look at our workbook page. All right, I want you to look at this collection of circles. Okay, you see different circles here. Some are blue, some are red, and some are yellow. If I wanted to know what fraction of the circles are red, what do you think that fraction would look like? Go ahead and write down what you think that fraction would be. You can pause the video if you want to. All right, how many of you came up with the fraction 4/12? Okay, 4/12 would be an accurate fraction. If you didn't come up with 4/12, how do you think I came up with 4/12? Okay, knowing what you know about fraction, well, I want to know how many are red, and so looking at how many are red, I can see that there are 4 that are red, and then remember what my denominator is. My denominator is the total number. So how many circles do I have all together? Okay, and all together I have 12. So 4 out of the 12 circles are red. Can you come up with a different fraction? And maybe you already came up with a different fraction. All right, let's look at it this way. Did you notice that there were 4 blue, there were 4 red, and there were 4 yellow? Are those equal groups? So as long as they are equal groups, you've divided these circles up equally, right? How many groups are there? There are 3. And how many groups are red? 1 group out of the 3 are red. So 4/12 and 1/3 is actually, these are actually equivalent fractions. Okay? So now this is talking about fractions of collections of objects instead of just the fraction of a whole object. All right? So let's look at this problem here. Still not in your workbook, still kind of just thinking through. It says Jules has a stamp collection with 12 stamps. She puts half of her stamps on one page and the other half on another page. So how many stamps are on each page? So if I'm kind of just drawing that out, here she's got the stamp collection. Okay, there are 12 stamps in that collection. Now it says that she takes those stamps and she puts half on one page and half on the other. Guys, you know what half means. Half means you're dividing it in 2. Fractions are just division. Whatever number's in the denominator, that's how you're dividing something up. So this time you're taking 12 stamps and you're going to divide it up into 2 different pages. So when you divide those 12 stamps into 2 different pages, how many stamps do you have on each page? And I think we all know that we have 6 on each page. Okay? You can draw that out if you want to and actually draw the 12 stamps. But I think these are numbers that we can work out in our head. But when we're talking about half, anytime we're talking about half of the objects. If I'm talking about half of the classroom, we are taking all the boys and girls in the classroom and dividing them into 2 groups, right? That denominator always tells you how you're dividing something up equally. So fractions are just simply division problems. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and get into our workbooks. I want you to go ahead and instead of doing this with me, why don't you go ahead and try to do page 249 on your own. Read the problem carefully, underline the important information, draw a picture. Remember, anytime we're doing word problems, we can draw a picture of what's going on in that problem. So I want you to go ahead and stop the video. I want you to go ahead and do page 249 on your own. And then there are, 4 problems? And then you can go ahead and start the video back again, and I'll go over them with you. All right, if you're just coming back from doing the problems, let's go ahead and go over them. It says that 2 people share a collection of 8 pennies equally. How many pennies does each person get? And then we're going to talk about what fraction of the pennies in the collection does each person get. So let's just talk about these. 2 people share a collection of 8 pennies. So again, I've got 8 pennies. I can draw them out, or I can just simply just say I've got 8 pennies, right? I'm taking these 8 pennies and I'm sharing them. What am I doing? I'm sharing them, or I'm dividing them between 2 people. So when I kind of draw this out in a picture here, I'm dividing those 8 pennies between 2 people. Now, of course, how many pennies will each person get? They're each going to get 4 pennies. Okay? Now, what fraction of the pennies in the collection does each person get? Guys, you can kind of write this fraction a couple of different ways. First of all, anytime you are sharing something between 2 people, what did you just do? You just divided those objects in half, right? So each person is going to get 1/2. This person got half the pennies and this person got half the pennies. So if you said your fraction was 1/2, you would be correct. You divided those pennies into 2 equal groups, and each person's going to get one of the groups. Or if you said each person is going to get 4 out of the 8 pennies, remember that fraction bar, remember we talked early on, that fraction bar means out of. Each person's going to get 4 out of the 8. Okay, my denominator tells me how many total pennies, my numerator tells me how many we're talking about, and so 4/8. 1/2 equals 4/8. So either of those fractions would have been correct. All right, looking at number 2. This time, 5 people are sharing a collection of 15 pennies equally. So how many pennies does each person get? So guys, think about what you're doing. You're taking 15 pennies and you are dividing those 15 pennies between 5 people. Okay? When you take 15 and you divide it by 5, because we're getting pretty good with our multiplication and our division, we know that that is 3. Okay? So each person is going to get 3 pennies. But if it wants to know what fraction of the pennies in the collection does each person get, a couple different ways you could write this fraction again. Okay, first of all, I know that they are getting 3 out of 15 pennies. So if you wrote 3 over 15, or 3/15, you would be correct. They're getting 3 out of 15. If you drew this out more in a picture, so here's your 15 pennies, and if you kind of divided those 15 pennies out between 5 people, okay, well, you know that each person is going to get 3 pennies. Okay? Now, each person, look, this is one person. Okay? So they're going to get one group of pennies out of how many groups? This time we're looking at our groups. Okay? There are 5 groups, and each person is going to get one of those 5 groups. And so 3/15 equals 1/5. So either way you would have written that fraction, I would have been totally okay. Now when you get a little bit older, getting into some of those upper grades, you're always going to have to write your fraction in simplest form. I'm not going to talk to you today about what that means. For our purposes, either one of these fractions would have worked out just fine. All right, looking at number 3. There are 12 eggs in a carton. After the carton is dropped, 7 of the eggs are cracked. What fraction of the eggs in the carton did not crack? Okay, so when you think about this, you have 12 eggs and some of them crack. Well, what kind of math is that? We're subtracting, right? So 7 of them are cracked. I'm going to kind of label so I can keep track of what I'm talking about here. 12 eggs, 7 of them are cracked. And when I subtract that 7, then I've got my 5 eggs that are not cracked. or that are left. And the reason I'm going ahead and labeling that is then I'm going to go back and read my question. What fraction of the eggs in the carton did not crack? So I'm looking for this number here. This is what did not crack. Okay? 5 eggs did not crack. Out of how many? What were the total number of eggs? 12. Okay? 5 out of 12 eggs did not crack. All right, looking at number 4. Julie and Amanda each have 8 pencils. 3/8 of Julie's pencils are blue, and 5/8 of Amanda's pencils are blue. Who has more blue pencils? Okay, so they each have 8, guys. So here's Julie. Remember, start drawing your picture. Start drawing what's happening. Here's Julie, here's Amanda. Okay, they each have 8 pencils. So Julie has 8, Amanda has 8. Now it says that 3 out of 8 of her pencils, so I'm just going to go ahead and say 3 out of 8 of Julie's pencils are blue, and 5 out of 8, so let's go ahead and write that as fraction. Who has more blue pencils? So look at these two fractions. Now guys, think about these fractions here. What do you notice? Do you notice how the denominators are the same? Guys, that's because they have the same number of pencils. Okay? If these were pizzas, their pizzas are cut exactly the same way. Okay? Julie's is cut into 8 slices, Amanda's is cut into 8 slices. If we're talking about pizza and Julie ate 3 out of the 8 slices and Amanda ate 5 out of the 8 slices, who ate more? Or if we're talking about 3 out of 8 and our pencils are blue and 5 out of 8 of the pencils are blue, who has more blue pencils? They both have 8. So 5 out of 8 is bigger. Okay? And then I want you to draw a picture to show your thinking. Guys, you could even just do some fraction circles with this. You could draw one circle and divide it into 8s and shade in 3 parts. Draw another fraction circle, divide it into 8s, shade 5 parts, to show or to prove your thinking with fraction circles. All right, let's see here. I'm going to kind of, I think, stop. Let's see, sorry about that. I couldn't find my recording thing. I'm like, am I even recording anymore? All right, so the video is already 12 minutes long. I have a few problems to do with collections, but you know what I think I'll do? I think I'll post those on another assignment on another day for you to go ahead and practice these. So for right now, we're going to go ahead and stop this lesson where we are, and maybe you can even come up with some fraction lessons on your own. Maybe you could come up with some problems about your family. You know, I have 4 people in my family, and 3 of them are boys. What fraction of my family are boys, or something like that. Okay, so go ahead and come up with some fraction number stories on your own and kind of practice with that. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next lesson.